I don't need that, right? I think you can handle it. I really do appreciate the fact that you wanted to hear from me. I mean, that's probably good. And since I do consider myself young, I'm not sure how professional I am, but young, it's nice to be able to do this. You have heard on multiple occasions my official biography, but where they celebrate all the facts that I was young, this, that, the other, is the one thing that I thought I'd finally lose when I was elected county executive was the youngest mayor, but sadly it turns out I'm the youngest county executive in county history. So if Charlie has his way, I'm not sure how old the youngest governor was, but hopefully we'll carry that with me in 8 years. No, I tell people all the time that I fell in love with public service, and I know that you come to this conversation from the private sector, in essence, from the business community, from your own desire to be involved in making this economy of ours better. But in turn, the investment that you make makes our community better. And when I was a teenager in the village of Tivoli, I really wanted to invest in the success of my community. It was somewhere in 1993, when I was finishing up my senior year at Red Hook High School, I began interning for my state assemblywoman at the time, Eileen Hickey, who was just a wonderful woman who really inspired us to be involved. And I started to get involved in the village, started to attend village board meetings. And we had minor issues. The mayor is here. He wasn't mayor at the time, Brian Crana. He succeeded me by 2, but the village board at the time really wasn't paying attention to some of the concerns that young families had, and we wanted them to confront it. And having gone to a number of board meetings and listening to a couple of the village trustees, I began to realize that if they could get elected to the village board, then I could, because at least in my experience with one of them, intelligence was clearly not a prerequisite to hold an elected office at the time. So in 1994, I ran for and was elected to the Village Board of Trustees as an 18-year-old. My mother was thrilled not to have to pay tuition at Wagner College, but demanded that I immediately enroll at Dutchess Community College. And I'm thankful for that, but served on the village board in Tivoli for a year. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Charlie was wrong, but I don't like to publicly acknowledge his error. I was not on the Johnny Carson show. I did, however, meet David Letterman, but Johnny was in California, and that was a long walk. So but I didn't want to correct him, but served a year on the village board. The mayor, at the time, had served for 20 years and decided to retire, not because I was elected. And like in most small communities, the mayor says, any of you guys want to be mayor? And as a member of the village board, I was one of those people they asked, and I ran home and asked my mom if it would be okay I run for mayor. And in March of 1995, I ran for and was elected mayor of the village of Tivoli. And I was just in Pine Plains High School yesterday. I have always enjoyed talking to high school and college age students. Having been elected at a young age, had the privilege of going across the country. In fact, spoke to many, in fact, youth organizations, leadership programs across the state. It turns out I can't fix refrigerators, but I'm okay at public speaking, so they hired me. Actually, I begged them. No, I often get the question, well, what's the one piece of advice you would give somebody who wants to run for public office? And I tell them the single most critical piece of advice I would offer is this. If you run for elected office, don't have anyone run against you. In March of 1995, I ran unopposed for mayor of the village of Tivoli, was elected, imagine if I had lost, and served 12 years in Tivoli. And I'll close with, this is a long conclusion, but I'll close with this. I often say to elected officials, every person who's ever held elected office should have to serve in the village level. Because village government is intensely personal. The mayor fixes light bulbs at the village hall. I often responded to fire calls or was there at the scene when we had to repair sewer mains and water mains. I know more about paving streets because of the 12 years I served as mayor than perhaps some town highway superintendents know. So it is intensely personal. The village hall in Tivoli is about a block, if you could call it that, from the post office. It should be about a 2-minute walk. Well, when you're the mayor of a small community, it takes about an hour and a half because you get conversations on the way down and on the way back. You go to the market, the grocery store, and everyone says the same thing. it must be difficult for you to go shopping when people just want to talk to you. You probably come late at the grocery store so you can avoid people. And I can understand wanting to have a little bit of time to yourself. Would you mind answering the 17 questions? So at that level, it is intensely personal. And you learn, I think, the importance of public service and what public service means because you see it. I mean, you see the impact of your decision making. And as politically incorrect as it is, I have spent every day of my adult life in public service. And I would offer to you that when you elect or appoint or hire somebody to run a government, you actually want someone who's a professional in that realm. Now, mind you, private sector experience in government is absolutely important. I have some of that myself. But knowing the way in which and how you can get government to respond effectively to the needs and challenges in an efficient and responsive way demands people who understand all aspects of government. That's why I was thrilled to be elected county executive in November. So what's the biggest challenge facing the people of Dutchess County? Is that the question? Unemployment and a stagnant economy. The problem is that we don't have in this county or any county the ability to change, to alter, to overcome what is an international and national economic stagnancy. It is. Sadly, in some ways, this is the new normal. And in some ways, what we face today is more complex and more challenging than the Great Depression. And I often say to people, you have the Great Depression, tank, and then you have this miraculous rebound. Certainly, World War II assisted in that rebound, and then the boom that followed. But we are at a trough, and that trough is going to take a lot of time and a lot of talent and resources and energy to overcome. So I don't, and I'm not an economist, but I play one on TV. I read what they put in front of me. I think that we are looking at a very long and prolonged stagnancy. So what does that mean? That means we do have to, and I hate to reuse the term, reset our expectations. What do we expect to accomplish economically and from a government perspective over the next 1, 5, 10, and 20 years? And I'd offer to you, as much as it's important for government to look at the broad horizon, establishing an economic recovery goal for 50 years from now and not paying attention on now and what we're doing now means nothing. So it's my hope that county government will focus on the now with some perspective in the long term. We want to restructure government to respond to the challenges of today because it is in many ways government that establishes barriers. So we can't overcome the international economic condition, but what we can do is make Dutchess County the most effective and efficient in the delivery of service and the most, I think, helpful when it comes to economic growth and economic recovery. And those are the things that I talked about. I'm sure you can ask me more about in my presentation earlier. So I think that we have a 8.1% unemployment rate. And by the way, that's unemployment. Underemployment is significantly greater. There are far too many people working 1, 2, 3 jobs, and they're still not being able to pay their bills, meet their payroll if you're a business, or pay your mortgage. So we have to confront that as well. And I think that we need to do it in a very optimistic and enthusiastic way, or we're going to lose people more and more. So that economic stagnancy, I think, is the biggest challenge facing us because it not only affects government, but it affects the people government serves, each and every one of you individually. And every one of you is impacted. Whether you consider yourself at the moment doing well or not, every one of you is impacted by what is an enormously stressful economic condition. Yeah, Wayne.
I have clients that are liquor store owners.
Yeah.
They're a big
I love
concern.
liquor store owners. I love liquor stores.
and they're a big concern.
I don't drink, but
that grocery stores might be in a position to sell liquor. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I served 5 years in the state assembly. Every other year, a governor proposes, or this assembly proposes, allowing grocery stores to sell wine instead of liquor stores. This governor did not. Governor Cuomo doesn't seem to support wine in grocery stores. The reason I say I love liquor stores is because they are the last, if you will, of the Main Street business. And I don't mean that there are plenty of Main Street businesses, but they are a staple in most vibrant village and city centers. Now, for all the reasons you could assume, but some of them are really good, and they invest in those city and village centers. The other is in New York State, since you can't, you go to the grocery store, you think, well, why can't I buy a bottle of wine? Well, as much as we want to see grocery stores achieve success and you have opportunities like that, we can't guarantee that New York products get sold in New York grocery stores. So what is already a very struggling agricultural industry, our wine industry, if you will, in the state of New York, there's no guarantee that opening up Hannaford or opening up Stop and Shop, which are international conglomerates, are going to purchase our product first. So in order, we believe, to sustain those village and city centers, in order to ensure that the agriculture industry continues to grow, liquor stores play an important role in that. I have always opposed wine and liquor stores. I do that for not only for the reasons I just mentioned, but I'm a prude. I don't happen to think that you should have unlimited access to alcohol. I mean, it just seems to me that, and I worked at a grocery store as a kid. There's a reason why liquor in the state is sold in liquor stores, and that's because there are a set of rules. Of course, some of them post prohibition, but there are rules, and those business people are responsible in administering those rules. And grocery stores have a lot going on, so I don't think you're going to see that happen anytime soon. Yeah.
I'm not one to really. I don't follow government heavily, but I always hear about mandates.
Are you
Can you
kidding?
explain a little bit about mandates and what that means for those of us who may not?
Sure. It's a good question. Although once I got it from a reporter, and I began to worry when the reporter said, "Could you explain to me what a mandate is?" I thought, "Oh, great, this is going to be a long day." Every higher level of government demands something of a lower level of government. In this state, you have, in fact, a government structure that was created in the 1700s. Villages and city centers were created because they were densely populated areas. The towns were these unpopulated areas. They were a little bit larger. County governments created to sort of manage large tracts of land, and then the state. In New York State, Albany has a few of what we consider the big ticket mandate items that I mentioned, Medicaid being one of them, early intervention and early education programming. In the state of New York, the delivery of social services is a state and county cost. So, and by the way, there's only 2 states in the nation that require county governments to deliver social services, Medicaid being the core component of that. So, in this state, the federal government pays for 50% of Medicaid costs. This is on average. 50% of Medicaid costs, the state pays for 25%, and then it requires county governments to pay the other 25%, yet does not provide any means for county government to decide what services are going to be offered. And the state of New York offers the largest, most robust federal Medicaid program in the country. We have half as many participants in Medicaid as California and Texas and most of Florida combined, and we pay twice as much as those 3 states combined. So it is riddled with fraud, and it is a massive, massive institution, Medicaid service, created under Governor Rockefeller to offer the most robust social service program in the nation. And you can argue that there's some needs that need to be confronted. So Medicaid being the largest component of mandated expenditures, the state says, here, pay for it, but you have no way of controlling it. So ultimately, a mandated cost is some layer of some policy that a higher layer of government wishes to impose, demanding on lower levels of government with limited ability to affect it and impact it, to deliver the service and pay the cost, and that's what we deal with. Yes, other questions? Yeah.
I had a typical story. I took off 10 years to raise my kids, and I'm reintegrating into my career, and I go to a lot of networking events. And what I'm seeing at these networking events is a lot of sole proprietors, and which is great because that's new ideas, new businesses, people with vision, they want to grow. I mean,
Apple, Hewlett Packard, Dell,